Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Mile 10. I pretty much hate everything right now. I'm hungry. My feet are swollen. My ankles hurt. My head is stopped running. You know, this is part of me when I live. This little compartment of anger and hate that I face for special occasions. These last 3 months. The entire fucking special occasion. So all the bullshit, all the struggles. That door's about to bust wide open. I'm gonna finish this bitch. Catch it inside.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Alberto on the course, 10 miles in, with 3 miles to go, motivating himself to get to the end.
I'm trying so hard not to laugh just because I can imagine. It's like you're in his mind, literally hearing all of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was the Mr. Hyde.
A little peek behind the curtain of Alberto's brain.
Mm-hmm.
So welcome to the episode, ladies and gentlemen. This is a special one-off. We're going to chat a little bit about Alberto's experience doing a half marathon with only about 2.5 weeks of prep. And we're going to go through. What you just heard was a voicemail that he left for us on the voicemail line that very few people use. But he left voicemails throughout. We'll review those as we go. But Alberto, you finished the you finished the half marathon. Your time was pretty darn good. We'll go through all the specifics, I'm sure, at some point. But how are you feeling at this point?
Oh, I've never been so achy, sore, hungry, thirsty, and tired all at the same time. But yeah, just to throw a disclaimer out there, I am not a runner, so I am not going to recommend anybody do what I did. But I'm just going to explain the process that I went through and what I went through to pull this little really short turnaround to run a half marathon. I mean, if anyone out there is a runner and has a better way of doing things, by all means, chime in, because I had no blueprint, and with the time frame I was given, there wasn't enough time to research one.
So let's start at the beginning. What you didn't sign up for the Austin Half Marathon?
I did not.
So how did all that happen?
Well, it was just a regular day at work, and I happened to flip through Facebook, and there's a shoe store out here, and they had just posted we got some free entries to the Austin Marathon. First 5 people win a free entry. And I swear, I'm probably wrong, but I swear I scrolled and saw a handful of entries. And I think all I put on there was like, nice. And then with 10 minutes later, this was like 2.5 weeks ago. And so 10 minutes later, I get a message on Facebook. It says, congratulations, you won a free entry to the Austin Marathon. You know, are you still interested in claiming it? And at that point, I was just like, I need to talk to my wife. it's Girl Scout cookie season. You know, there's a lot going on. Girl Scout cookie season. If anybody has a Girl Scout, it's absolute madness. It's great for the girls. I don't want to say it's torture for the parents, but it puts a lot of stress in a very short amount of time to get these things done. So I had to double check with her, and of course, you know, they had a cookie booth today where we were still able to work around it. So I accepted. I actually went out and bought a pair of running shoes with exactly 16 days to the race. And then 15 days to the race, I actually started running. I stopped working out as far as weightlifting goes altogether, because I just knew with what I was going to try to do that there was no way my body was going to be able to bounce back. You know, we had this 100 burpee challenge going on. I did that for like 5 days. Quickly realized that that's going to have to stop too if I have any chance of pulling this off. So I pretty much focused on running and recovery. And I think I was talking about it before, where the first week I put 30 miles in, probably over 30 miles. And then it was on that Friday, which now we're 9 days from the race. I realized that the shoes I bought are just not going to work. Like they just were not for my feet. They were hurting real bad. I couldn't even I could barely get 6 miles without stopping, and half marathon is 13.1, so that's not going to fly. So my whole plan was last Sunday, 7 days before the race, that I was going to leave my house and I wasn't coming back till I hit 13.1 miles, regardless of how long that took. So I kind of just punted, for lack of a better term, and I put my Vibrams on, my Vibram 5 fingers, and I just started going. And I was able to go 6 miles before I stopped. And then the mistake that I made then was I drank too much before I left. Luckily, it was still dark out. I'm running around my neighborhood. Luckily, it was still really dark out. We got a lot of wooded areas. So when I had to stop to go to the bathroom, it was no big deal. There was nobody out. But I quickly realized that as much as the running hurts, the stopping hurts more. So I knew I did get my 13.1 miles in that day. It took me 3 hours and 6 minutes. And I knew that, and then I didn't do anything all week. I literally just ate and slept, and in true Berto fashion, I just ate and slept, and I ended up losing like 3 pounds, because that just always happens to me whenever I just stop training and focus on eating and recovery. I always lean out. So I lost a few pounds, wasn't really going to sweat it under the circumstances. I did nothing all week. My goal was to run like a quick 5K. I'm doing air quotes, not that you can see it. A quick 5K on Friday, rest Saturday, and then run the race Sunday. Friday, it never happened. Saturday morning, I met our friend Crooked Kings, Anthony, to pick up our shirts. I have the shirts in my possession now. And after I picked the shirts, I'm like, well, let me just hop on this treadmill real quick. In my Vibrams, hop on the treadmill. I couldn't even get 2 miles in. So I was really starting to freak out at that point. And I mean, moral of that part of the story is that, I don't know, as far as I'm concerned, treadmills are useless. It did absolutely nothing for helping train for this half marathon at all. If anything, it put in my head that it wasn't going to happen, because I ended up running about 1.5 miles, just walking a half mile, and I was just done. Like, something about standing in the same place, looking the exact same thing, and trying to jog, just, oh man, I couldn't get past it. It was tough.
So my question with the Austin landscape, I mean, I'm from Southern Indiana, where it's hills all over the place. What is it like running in Austin? Is it flat? Is it hilly? Is it a combination of things?
It's mildly hilly in Austin. Oh, well, unless you're running, then it's very hilly in Austin. But we and Chris will understand, but we ended up running west of Mopac, which is a highway here, and west of Mopac is where the hill country starts. So as soon as we went under Mopac, I knew nothing good was going to come of it. And under Mopac was mile 8, right around mile 8 and mile 9. And at that point, it was steep hills up and down, short hills, but very steep hills up and down. And let me tell you, the downhill is far more painful than the uphill.
Yep. Just to give perspective on Texas Hill Country as it is in that particular area of town, that's where professional bicyclists who do the Tour de France train.
Wow. Okay.
It's very long, drawn out up and down hills, but they're not, the elevation changes are pretty significant in those. So, I can, the guys with the gears on the bikes, they're doing it every Saturday, every Sunday, but I can't imagine running it.
I don't want to ever again.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit. So let's listen to the first voicemail getting started. That was just kind of a, hey, we're getting started, and then we'll kind of go through the process as it was, kind of little bit by little bit.
What's up, everybody? Just got started, going over the Conduit Bridge now. A little later than scheduled, but here we go. Mile 1. Only 12.9 to go. I'll check it later.
So,
the difference in my voice.
yeah, pretty easy going, and you kind of
positivity. Yep.
Yeah. And then you mentioned later on in one of the voicemails that you think your Apple Watch wasn't reading your heart rate right.
There's no way it could have been, only because as soon as I started running, it hit 170 and it never budged. The whole time I was running, it never budged from 170.
I couldn't hear I couldn't hear it clearly enough in the voicemail. So I thought it said 70 something. I'm like, well, that's an amazing heart rate.
Yeah.
But
No,
yeah,
it stayed like every time I looked at it mile after mile, it was at exactly what, and I'm like, okay, that can't be accurate. But they do say if a tattoo will get in the way,
mm-hmm.
and then not only that, like I was sweating like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I should have loaned you my heart rate monitor, the chest monitor. That wouldn't have had the same issue.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I would have been really curious only because I was able to talk the entire duration of the run, a little gassed, a little out of breath, but I could hold a conversation at any point in time while I was running. So, I mean, that is usually a good sign that you're at least not overexerting yourself. Now, let me say that, like I said, I ran this in my Vibram 5 fingers. So basically a thin sock, a strap of rubber, and the ground. And I was so over concerned about electrolytes that I had my Camelback on I started off with 24 ounces of water, I think 2 teaspoons of salt, a half teaspoon of no salt, and just a little minor scoop of a little bit of magnesium in there. Only because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what was going to happen. And my biggest fear was cramps. So I was, better err on the side of caution and take that with me. And I also had 2 of my little mini shakers of real salt, Redmond's real salt. So as I was running, I would just kind of just pop a little bit in my mouth and then shake it around and get some salt in my mouth and keep going. Turns out, I think I would have been okay had I just had the shakers and not the Camelback, but I didn't know that, so I just decided to over prepare and just kind of go with it.
Were the results based on age groups, or was it just do it for fun or anything? I mean, how did you place?
Oh, I placed terribly. Yeah, well,
you placed, dude. You've knocked out so many people already just by doing it. So
yeah, I mean, I looked at it because they had laptops set up when you finished, and you just punched your bib number in, and it showed you. And obviously, it's a rolling start. So I think first of all, okay, let's back it up now. I got up at 4 a.m. Alarm goes off. I get up, get ready. I've been fighting some oddball stomach issues, so I didn't want to drink any coffee. And obviously, as you guys well know, stomach issues kind of freak me out. So I ended up going with, I still have no dose. So I ended up taking half a no dose, which is 100 milligrams of caffeine, drinking a big old, pretty much made a bulletproof bone broth instead of a bulletproof coffee, which was amazing. A ton of salt, 2 eggs in there, blended it all up, drank it like it was coffee. Slammed my, 24 ounces of electrolyte drink, and then just hit the road with the intention of getting down there and being at the starting line by 6. So I had an hour to kind of just stretch out and warm up. Well, sure enough, on the way down, dead stop traffic, stuck for 20 minutes. Finally found a parking spot. Didn't make it down there to the starting line till about, I think it was like 6:50, with the race supposed to start at 7. Luckily, the race got delayed, but at that point, I'm standing in a crowd of people. There's no warming and stretching up. So actually, by the time I passed the front gates, it was like 7:15. But not that really matters because it's a chipped race. So it does go by age groups, and I think I was about 3/4 of the way in my age group. So like I was somewhere in like 3,000, finisher number 3,500 and something out of 5,000 or something like that. For that, and I think the age group was 40 to 44, maybe. I don't remember. It's not posted yet.
Yeah. Okay. So
this sounds too bad at all.
Yeah.
Oh, I ain't complaining at all. My whole goal was to finish and not die. So it was a win as far as I'm concerned.
Check mark and gold star on that. Let's go ahead and listen to the mile 3 voicemail.
What's up, everybody? Just started mile 3. I'm on 71. I don't even know what direction. Yeah, the first 2 miles were uphill. Heart rate's a little higher than I want it to be. But I'm averaging a 12-minute mile, wearing my Vibram 5 fingers and the Camelback. So we're just going to keep on chugging to see what happens. Peace.
So yeah, you're showing there. You can you're definitely a little out of breath, but you totally could eat or you could definitely speak, hold a conversation, and that's good. So let's see here. What else can we talk about? I don't want to just run through all these voicemails. There's 2 more unique ones that nobody's heard.
Yeah. Well, here, let me give it a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, as I said, the first actually ended up being the first 3 miles. First 2 miles were uphill straight line. Then you took a right, and then you were uphill again for up through mile 3. And then about mile 4 was pretty much you turn around to go back on a different street. So it was almost a downhill all of mile 4 and mile 5. And it was flat all the way through about mile 8. And like I said, how we had gotten to the hill country, and that's when things started getting real testy for me, you know. So it was it's a cool experience, and the organization, and it's a total you versus you, because you're against yourself. You're not racing someone next to you, and every age group, every size person, every age person, like they're out there. There's like 17,000 people signed up for this thing. So it's like nobody cares about you. Everybody's worried about themselves. And I think it's probably an experience everyone should do. I mean, even if it's a half or a 5K, because the time limit was 4 hours to finish the half, which is an 18-minute mile, which, I mean, if anyone's ever gone to Disney, you've walked that in a day. I guarantee it. You might just have to like walk it with a little purpose and a little pep in your step, but you could do it. And you could hear in the background of that voicemail, there was live music stations everywhere. They had bands set up, plugged in, playing live music. There was some drum outfit right there on that last voicemail. Tons of people on the side of the road holding signs, giving you high fives, water stations, hydration stations, and who knows what kind of goo they were handing out, their gels and whatever concoction they had in their cups. But I'll tell you what, it was kind of a nice little boost of confidence when you're running. Everyone's stopping at these stations to grab their little sugar gels, and I don't even know what they were handing out as far as drink. It smelled sweet, so I'm assuming it was sweet. And these guys are all slugging this stuff and stopping and stretching their calves, and here I am just chugging along, running right past every single one of them. I did get a couple just plain waters, only because the water I had in my Camelback was so salty that once I actually got thirsty, I couldn't drink that stuff because it was just not cutting it. So I would have to stop and grab not stop, but I would have to, as I ran past, I'd have to grab a cup of water, just take a couple sips, and just keep on running. So there was definitely an experience, man. I think everyone should at least consider doing it. Just you'll learn a lot about yourself. Something about repetitive motion over and over and over and over and over and over again, and you got a lot of time to think and focus, and you just got to kind of ignore your surroundings at certain points and just focus on the movement and just focus on moving.
So what were you thinking through all of this? I mean, are you listening to music? Do you have a mantra kind of thing? What was going through your head?
Yeah, I had what I had working on, where ended up working. What I did was I just put Pandora on, and my Pandora station I got every kind of genre you could think of. So I would put it on shuffle. It was about, I think after the first mile, I put it on shuffle, and then I would kind of run to the rhythm. So if it was a slow song, to be some oldies or some Motown, I'd slow down a little bit. If it was some more aggressive punk rock, or like System of a Down or something, I'd be able to speed up a little bit. If it was like gangster rap, something like that, I was almost like it's like a game. You don't know what song's coming next. So if it's a good song, it's like I would literally snap my finger and it would be like, turn on and just go. And then you just kind of pick up the pace, the tiniest bit while that song plays, and then the next song comes on. If it slows down, then all right, get a little break. This is a slow song. And that actually seemed to work really, really well for me. When I was doing the training, I tried listening to podcasts because, I figured, hey, if I throw on a podcast that should run the duration, you find yourself, or at least I found myself, focusing too much on what's going on, like in the podcast, and then not really paying much attention. So I found it a lot easier just to have, and it wasn't even that loud, but just loud enough. One earbud, I could still hear everything around me. Volume is just high enough to recognize the song, and just found it easier to just kind of not look ahead as the distance ahead of you, but just kind of look ahead of you 6-8 feet and just worry about that and just keep covering that distance.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
Well, let's listen to the next one. See where we are with that.
What's up, guys? Mile 7. I have not stopped running yet. So far, so good. I don't think my Apple Watch is calculating heart rate properly because it's been stuck at 170 this whole time. And as you can see, I'm fairly capable of holding conversations, so that can't be accurate. I've already made it farther than I did in Ashley's practice run. The streets here are a lot more coarse than asphalt than at home, which would normally wouldn't make a difference unless you're running damn near barefoot like I am right now. Anyways, keep plugging along. Last week's practice run, I stopped at 6. So far I'm on 7. Feet a little bit tired. Feet starting to feel a little bit tired so far. Right on cue. Rowing mile, 11 and a half minutes, which actually means I've shaved almost a minute off my mile from starting. That is extremely interesting. Right.
So mile 7, you're over halfway there. Other than what you shared in the voicemail, what were you thinking at that point? Were you like surprised to how well it was going, or what were you thinking?
Yeah, I was really surprised how much legs I had left, but it was almost like identical to my practice run. So as soon as I could feel my feet start to swell up and I could feel my knees start to ache a little bit, like I knew I could push through it. I just knew I had to push through it carefully. And then the one comment I made there is that the asphalt in downtown Austin is like a chunkier, coarser asphalt, which would not make a difference. But since I was the shoes I decided to wear, I could literally feel like every pebble underneath my feet as I was running. And I actually made the mistake once is that I wasn't paying much attention and I actually stepped on the road reflector like mid stride. I just wasn't paying attention, stepped on a road reflector, and that was excruciatingly painful. So it's like you hear those commercials like about Cadillacs and stuff where they're talking about how the suspension can make 32,000 calculations a second. And it's almost like that. You get so far in your head, you look at the ground ahead of you and you are adjusting like every step as fast as you can as your feet are hitting the ground to kind of just compensate for the texture on the ground and avoiding the stripes because you could feel the stripes in the road too. And then, there's speed bumps in certain places. And so you got to take the speed bumps very carefully because you don't want to hit the wrong end of a speed bump mid stride and have that energy, go through you because that could definitely be bad. And right around mile 7, right around that time is when the pain kicked in. And then our good friend John Oakes out of nowhere decided to text me. I thought it was my wife. So, as I'm running, I just, hey, read my text messages. Turns out it was John Oakes telling me what his breakfast was. So that didn't help. He said something about it was something along the lines of I rode blah, blah, blah. I got hungry. So this is my breakfast. And I replied, I'm like, you know what? I really don't care right now.
Thanks for the update, John.
Yeah.
You replied while you were running.
I did because I didn't want him to keep texting me. But that's right around the time where I was getting good and tired, and I really had to focus on everything, and that's my pace really slowed down around that point, and it was that time. It was just it's all about consistency, and it's keeping a sustainable pace, which for me was not terribly fast. Hey, I guess I would imagine the more you get to jogging, the faster your pace could be sustainable. But at that time, it was just, find your pace, very short strides, and just don't let both feet touch the ground at the same time, and just kind of just keep chugging away, like you're just like a little tiny motor, just same RPM, just kind of just go 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 go. You really focus on your form. You try to make every stride identical to the last, and you do make a little compensations because it just after mile 4, mile 5, something is always going to hurt, but you've got to be able to tell if it's something that's going to get progressively worse or if you're going to be able to work your way through it. And luckily, I didn't have my aches and pains, but they were exactly what I'd experienced the week before. So I was just able to shorten my stride a little bit and kind of just keep powering through it.
So you get to 10 and we hear the voicemail that we opened up with. So we don't need to play that again, but you're kind of hating life there for a bit, but you're also, pushing yourself through and motivating yourself, don't give up. You've got more, keep pushing, all that type of mentality. Tell us a little bit more about that from your side of things. And what and we've talked with Danny in a couple weeks ago in the Danny Vega episode about the importance of either a mantra or developing something to help with resiliency. Talk a little bit about how this experience is either just an extension of the resiliency that you've already built up or helping you develop more so.
So right around then, that was, deep into the hills. And they even said, mile 11 is pretty much straight uphill and it's not easy. So, try to save a little bit in your tank for mile 11 because that's what's getting hard. So, this was right around mile 10 when it was just constant uphill and downhill. and I was getting real gassed out. And I only caught myself walking once, and I like took 2 steps, and I'm like, you know what? No. And I just kept running. And honestly, I did have a mantra, and you guys are going to laugh, but all I kept repeating to myself was, you ain't shit. You ain't shit. You ain't shit. Talking to myself, like degrading myself so I would get mad. And the madder I got, I don't want to say the faster I would run, but it was enough to give me enough motivation to just keep plugging along. I mean, these hills were brutal. And I promise you, anybody that listens to this could probably walk up that hill at a faster pace than I was, quote unquote, running. But it wasn't, it wasn't about that. It was about me just passing the person next to me and just keep going, ignoring the pain. At this point, the bottom of my feet are swelling. So it actually felt like I had extra padding. My shoes were super tight at this point, but still no cramps. Muscles were still okay. Lungs were still okay. But the outside, I'm guessing it's the tendon that's on the outside of your knees. They were just, I wouldn't even say on fire. They were aching so bad where you're at this point, I'm feeling every step, and every step. I don't want to say it was painful, but it was incredibly uncomfortable. And so you just had to find that zone and find a reason to keep on going. And for me, it just, I just started thinking back, I've been through a lot, and with the ulcerative colitis, and, just like, you know what, I'm healthy enough to do this, and I'm going to keep going, and I'm not going to stop. And this is going to keep going and keep going, one step at a time, one step at a time. And we're just going to keep plugging away and take every little bit of anger you've ever felt in your life, and every frustration and every letdown, and, all the daily BS that you go through. And I was leaving on the pavement and stomping it with every, with every step forward.
It's great.
Yeah. What was the weather like? I know the temperature wasn't particularly crazy, but how was humidity?
It was good and humid. We started off just over 50 degrees. Most of the race, I could see my breath, but I don't know if it was just because I was running real hot. But I think towards the end, we may have gotten into the 60s. And by the time we finished, it was already starting to creep into the 70s. But the sun had still not come out, so it was bearable. I was wearing shorts and like a long sleeve, moisture wicking T-shirt the whole time, and I was good. I chose that shirt on purpose. But the heat and temperature were definitely not a factor. I mean, I knew I was going to sweat. That wasn't going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But it was definitely, I would say, for what we were doing, it was perfect weather, because out here it could have been very well 85 degrees and blaring sun today.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, you could definitely feel the heat coming off the asphalt from the day before.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me one bit. And it wasn't even that hot of a day yesterday.
No.
But it is, it's just constantly that way down here. We're it's February. Yeah, it's already feeling like almost summer in comparison to other areas of the country, at least. So we're hitting in the 70s and 80s now pretty regularly at this point. So let's do the last voicemail. This is your closeout. So let's go ahead and listen to that real quick.
Holy shit, I did it. My feet are on fire, but I finished. Got my medal. All is well. Overall, feeling good. Unofficial time, right around 2 hours and 45 minutes, which means I shaved about 20 minutes off my first ever run last time. Talk to you soon, guys. Later.
So it was actually 2 hours and 40 minutes, right?
Yeah, it was 2 hours. And it was funny because the Apple Watch, and I actually, like I said, they have an app that you could figure it out, but they were within seconds of each other. So that picture I posted with the time on there, 2 hours 39 minutes was like 50 something seconds. But yeah, extra 240. So end up shaving a good amount of time off it. And what was really cool is right around, it was at mile 12.1. There is like the biggest welcome wagon you could possibly imagine at a marathon, where people on the sidelines, everyone just offering high fives and like literal cheerleaders, cheering you on, and the people handing out all kinds of bananas and chocolate chip cookies and just like anything you could do. There's people handing out beer, like little samples of beer just to keep you going. So it's like once you got to that point, then you could actually see the state capitol, because that's where the finish line was in front of the state capitol. Then it was like, okay, like this is going to happen. One more mile. Then there was, countdown, 3/4 of a mile, half mile, quarter mile. And then they have the gates. It's an official marathon. So like you run into the gates, and then you turn that corner, and just people, both sides just cheering you on. And I would imagine everyone who's running that marathon speeds up that last 100 or 200 yards, because how could you not? It's just like you're getting all this energy from these people, and you just go. And I would say one of the more surprising things was by the time I had finished, like under the circumstances, I did great, but I honestly think I could have kept running. Had I had more training, and maybe a proper pair of running shoes that fit my feet right, I don't know how much longer I would have had in me, but I could have definitely just kept on going. It wasn't until I stopped, that was when I left that voicemail message. And once you stop, then the sweat, the swelling and the pain really starts to kick in a little bit. But interestingly enough, yeah, I had plenty of gas in the tank as far as fuel goes. It was just a matter of if I would have had to keep on chugging.
Very cool. So you get done. What was like? I know in other areas of the country, they're like handing out those silver, space blankets and all that stuff. What was the post race looking like for you?
It was actually kind of cool because as soon as you cross that final gate, they're immediately handing you ice cold bottles of water, which was like the best tasting thing ever since I pretty much had seawater on my back. And then you pass another table and they just hand you these little tiny bags. I opened it up and it was like popcorn and a granola bar and cookies or something like that. I just attached it to my backpack. I'm like, I'll just take this home for the kids. And then they hand you your medals, and then it's like a 5-block party. There's a beer tent, there's a performance stage, there's food trucks, and I was actually going to get a beer because I'm like, you know what, I deserve this. And so I kept walking, and there's massage tents and all kinds of stuff. I found the line for the beer tent, and then I looked at the length of that line, and I'm like, by the time it takes me to get to the front of this, it's probably about the same amount of time it's going to take me to get to my truck. It's like I didn't know anyone there, so it's not like I was just going to stand there quietly in line and wait 30 minutes for a beer, or I could walk extremely slowly to my truck and then just start driving home. So I opted for the walk to the truck. But it's quite the event down there when it's all said and done. Like, they close off a lot of the street, and there's a lot going on, and massage tents and recovery zones and foam rolling stations. They actually and the medal, which I just realized not too long ago, is actually a belt buckle. So you could actually buy an Austin Marathon big thick leather belt and attach your belt buckle to it, and you could be the coolest guy around, I suppose.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I was like, how Texas is this? I'm like, this thing's a belt buckle. That's awesome.
That's a very Texas thing, because then you have the cowboy hat going with it, and it's the whole thing.
So would you do it again?
Probably not. I honestly, I could see myself running.
Because you're one of those people that
3.1 miles. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you're one of those people who I think gets the endorphin rush from working out. Like, you enjoy it. And they talk about the runner's high and everything. So I wondered if you got the same kind of upbeat mojo in your mind as you do from lifting and whatnot.
Yes and no. Just like it's like the patience required for something like this. I mean, like, I could go to the gym and work out for 2 hours and 40 minutes and be perfectly content. But the monotonous drone of just running and running and running and running and running, and I don't know how much longer I could have tolerated that had I had to. I don't see any marathons in my future. Like I said, a 5K is 3.1 miles, and that the 5K that I ran last year actually goes right past my house, so I know what the route is. So I honestly do see myself where, like, if I don't make it to the gym one day and I only got 35 minutes to spare, the nice thing about jogging is you really don't have to warm up. You can just start walking, then slowly go faster until you're on a nice jogging pace. And then, I could run a quick 3-mile lap and be back in my house, give or take 30 minutes. And I think that's about as far as I'd really want to go. Maybe a 10K, which would, be twice the distance, but I don't see myself running another half marathon or full, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely. My only frame of reference for any of this stuff is the Warrior Dash that I did years ago, after a friend kind of like, hey, it'd be fun to do it. And then, I did try to train for it. I did do some running in preparation for it. And, so there was a combination of things that happened from that made it particularly horrible. The night before the race, it rained in Kansas City, and it made an already hilly and mainly mud course through I think it was a state park, but basically a park area there in Kansas City. It made areas of it that should have just been a trail that you had to run to get to the next obstacle into an obstacle in and of itself, because it's like 3-inch deep mud that's, if you're not like really light and running on top of it, very, keeping on top of the mud somehow, if you're walking or anything, you just get stuck in it, slogging through. And so that was no fun. It was also the hottest that day has ever been. So like literally a record-breaking heat day that day. And come to find out afterwards, I did get through it completely. It was just a 5K, so it was only the 3 miles, and I did skip an obstacle or two. My friend who I was gonna run it with, he's incredible, he's fairly tall, and he's got good long legs, and so like in the first like uphill thing, I'm like, go, just go, don't wait for me, just go. Because I was not ready for it at all. So I'm doing this basically alone. And I finally get to the end, and come to find out from the news later that day, 2 people literally died from heat exhaustion because it was the hottest day and they hadn't prepped for it properly. The slogan or the thing on the t-shirt, and I still have the t-shirt because I will not get rid of it. It says, "I survived the Warrior Dash." And I literally survived the Warrior Dash, but it was so hot that they canceled further people going through after I went through. So it's like 1 or 2 more releasing, because they released us in groupings to make sure that the trail didn't get overloaded or anything. They canceled any further because it was just too hot. The humidity was horrible from the rain the night before, and the temperature itself was. So yeah, literally, I survived the Warrior Dash, and I will wear that shirt proudly when I mow the lawn. But that's the only frame of reference that I have to any of this type of thing, and that I just keep moving, just keep moving, just keep moving mentality is absolutely what I had to tie into at that point. So any other things that tie into this? We didn't want to drag this out too overly much because you're tired, certifiably and justifiably so. But any other things that you want to review the experience there?
Yeah, lifters can run distance if they need to. I mean, it ain't the most comfortable thing in the world, but I kind of debunked that, at least as far as I'm concerned for myself. Carbs are completely not necessary, because I think that I even posted the picture. There was a bowl that had broccoli and cauliflower in it, which was all the carbs I ate all day, so it really wasn't much. And for me, it was just filler. I was just trying to get as much. They were bathed in butter, so I was literally just trying to get as much calories and bulk in me as possible. And then the morning was just all protein and fat, and that was it. So, and like I said, I had plenty in the tank, and just running past all these people like chugging their electrolyte drinks and sucking on their, I don't even know what are those things called, sugar gel,
goos. They call them all
and
sorts
like
of things.
every mile and a half, these people are just shucking these things to keep running. I was able to just keep on plodding right past them. So
did you say what your recovery meal has been today?
Everything I could find. So I was actually just telling Yvette, just grocery shopping, and came back, and she was like, "Oh, I got strawberries, I got mixed nuts, I got this and that." And the other. So you want anything? I'm like, "Look, I was gonna let you know right now. I go, whatever you put in front of me, I'm gonna eat all of it." I was like, she's like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna put them in the fridge then." I was like, yeah. But I got back, and I made that. I posted a picture for Valentine's Day. I made that 0 carb, basically cloud bread cake. So we still had some of that left over. So I ate a bunch of that with blueberries, and I had about a pound of steak. Then I probably had like a cup of mixed nuts. It's just been grazing all day, because I'm not hungry, but like my body is like craving calories, but like there's no hunger there, but I know I got to eat, especially if I'm going to try to, recover and be able to function tomorrow. So I've just been kind of grazing all day, and like I have not stopped drinking water since I got back. I've been drinking a ton of water, and I don't see that ending anytime soon because I'm still thirsty.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I think this is been quite the experience, and I'm glad that we took the time to kind of journal and reflect on this journey for you. It just seems to me that this will help a lot of people who haven't ever done this type of thing or haven't ever thought about what it would take. That it hopefully will help them to say, well, maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll try. My answer is still hell no. but I'm it does encourage me to push back past any limits I would have set on myself. It does encourage me to not give into or given too quickly into self-doubt and things like that, because you can push past those limits. You can do more than what others would say is possible, because we have those limits. We in the Kung Fu classes, we actually have this thing that you hold out your arms on either side of you and you pull your hands back a little bit so that they're like pulling back towards you, and you hold that position for 49 long, deep breaths. And it's one of these things that there's a whole mythology behind it and how it was created, but it's that same idea of, okay, can you, and the answer is yes, but can you push yourself to hold it? To hold those arms out, to keep that position, to keep concentrating, to breathe the void each time, 49, 48, 47, so on and so forth, and push through. And that's something that we do regularly in the Kung Fu classes, and it's a good thing, I think, that to learn that resiliency and that ability to keep going even whenever you think that you can't. So that's a good thing.
No, that's not gonna lie. I just did something that was quite miserable, and what you just described sounds miserable.
Yeah, it is kind of miserable. Yeah.
So that space where you gotta ignore the pain, you gotta ignore the discomfort, and you focus on one thing, and you make that one thing the center of your attention, and the world pretty much disappears around you.
Yep.
And all you're worried about is your one task at hand. So, it's not unlike that at all, just a little bit longer.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, let's go ahead very quickly and review contact information. Just we'll keep it very, very simple. All of our social media contact information is available on our website. You can get that at theketomansclub.com. So all of our Instagrams, all of our website, Facebook group links, everything's there. So go to theketomansclub.com. You can connect with each one of us on Instagram or through the Facebook group. And so there's that. Our voicemail line that you heard used by Alberto in this episode, the phone number for that is 512-518-6161. You can also email us any comments or questions that you might have to ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. And so there's quite a few ways of getting in contact, both with the podcast as an entity or each one of us individually. If you have any questions or anything specifically for Alberto, I'm sure that he would be glad to answer those questions for you. So, any other parting shots before we shut things down?
All I can say is I think I've earned the right in both the cardiovascular running world, which hey, 13.1 miles isn't a lot to you. God bless you, but it was a lot to someone who 2 weeks ago didn't run at all.
Yep.
So I've done the cardio, I've done the lifting. I don't want to hear any excuses from anyone. There's reasons and there's excuses. A reason is I sprained my ankle.
Yeah.
You don't have. I just proved you don't have any excuses. It's what you want to do, and if you're going to do it, you can put your mind to it, and you can do it, and then you might learn a lot about yourself in a relatively short amount of time.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Jim kind of had some technical issues here at the last few seconds, so we will say goodbyes for him. I'm actually going to probably push this to actually release tomorrow. We're recording this Sunday evening. I'm going to go ahead and release this tomorrow instead of the other one that I was prepping, so that we can go ahead and get this out. And then we'll return to our previously expected release schedule coming next Monday, which is the new release day after my work schedule change. That it kind of is going to be a better thing to go ahead and set our release date for Mondays. So for Jim and Alberto, again, thanks for listening. That's it for this week. Until next week, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. Thank you for joining us for the Keto Man's Club podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Man's Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Man's Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to KetoMansClubPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.